mattress on the floor in it. And he goes, this is where my friend Soren sleeps and shit. I was like, he don't warrant a bedroom? He goes, look at this fucking closet. It's as big as a bedroom and shit. So as he's showing us around the house, me and my wife is like really taken with the place and whatnot. Ben starts talking about how he don't want to live there no more because it's too close to the street. People could take pictures and shit like that. Paparazzi just sit outside and fire at whoever comes out. So he's like, I gotta go get a house with a driveway. He's like, I'm gonna buy Drew Barrymore's house. She has a fucking driveway. I was like, must be all that ET money and shit. So he got a phone call. He goes, wait here 1 second. I'm gonna go. So it's just me and Jen, my wife, sitting in the foyer of this gorgeous fucking house. And Jennifer turns to me and she goes, I want this fucking house. And I was like, well then you married the wrong guy from Mallrats because the fashionable male seems to be doing quite fucking well in this place and shit. So Ben came back, he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, my old lady wants your house. And he's going, oh fucking take it off my hands. I was like, I can't fucking afford this house. You're out of your mind and shit. And so he was like, what if I rented you the house? Because he knew I was gonna be coming out to California for 6 months to work on a script. He goes, I can rent you the house. You're gonna go rent a different house. I'll rent you this house and stuff. And he's like, stay here for as long as you can. And then when you can pay for the house, I'll take whatever you gave me in rent off the top of the purchase price, which was a really fucking sweet deal. But I did put him in Chasing Amy, so fuck. So, you know, I eventually did. We moved into the house, rented it for a year. After the year, the house became ours. So we've been living in that house for 22 years. And yet, even though Ben lived in it for less than 6 months, we still refer to it as Ben Affleck's house. As do the tour people that come through the neighborhood all the time. So every day I'll be in my office and fucking like, I'll start hearing somebody tell distantly the story of my life, a little piece of the story of my life, where they're like, oh, Ben Affleck, oh, J-Lo, oh, Kevin Smith, and I'm like, oh, that's me. I'll go out on my balcony and shit, and there's a bus with an open fucking roof, and a bunch of people are like, holy shit, it's fucking Kevin James, and they start taking pictures and shit. So I've been living in a house for 22 years, and it has this ridiculous fucking door, and we can't change it. It's not like you can put a better door there. It's just, it looks like something out of Lewis Carroll and stuff. It's just so fucking huge. So, problem with the door is no fucking people whatsoever, man. Like, the door's thick as a fucking dick. Not mine, somebody else's fucking dick. But there's no people, and so you can't see, for 22 years, you can't see who's outside your door when they knock or ring the bell. So it's a real, like, every time I open the door, I'm always like got one foot against it going, I hope it's not a home invasion, you know, and open the door and then find out who it is and shit. So I was sitting in my office, this happened about 4 months ago. I was sitting in my office and I heard the knock on the door and shit. So I go down the hallway from my office and open the door. When I open the door, I see 2 Los Angeles Police Department officers. Now, you know, in my world, I'm gonna be 54 next week. In my world, growing up, the cops always looked like adults, but these cops looked to be about 25 years old, and I was the adult. And you know, I've spent most of my life being afraid of the cops, but that was the first time I was like, I could chase the cops now. So I was like, how are you? And I was instantly trying to think of what I fucking did and shit, like what would bring them there. And they were like, hey, we have a little thing in the neighborhood. Somebody had an elderly woman in the car with them. They went in to make a delivery. The woman got out of the car. She's senile at this point, so she just wandered. We don't know where she is, which direction she went. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. He goes, well, I see that your house has a camera on it. And I said, yeah, man, we just got cameras from ADT. They said they're the fucking best system in the world. He goes, well, that's good, because we're hoping to look at your footage to see if the woman walked uphill or downhill and see if she passed by. And I was like, oh shit, this is fucking perfect. I was like, you know that show, The Closer? And they're like, yeah. I was like, I've just been rewatching that, so I know exactly what you fucking need right now, man. And so they're like, all right. I was like, I got my phone. I pulled out my phone. I was like, they put the security camera like right on my phone so I could just pull it up, scrub through it back how long ago? He's like, it's about an hour ago. I was like, fantastic, I'm gonna pull it up. I pull it up and I scrub through it and it starts thinking and keeps fucking thinking and thinks for like 5 minutes and shit. And they're starting to get funny where they're like, yeah, I guess you did buy the best system. I was like, I know, it's so weird. Maybe it's because we're outside. I was like, sorry, man, it's a pain in the ass. Then the second cop said to the first cop, he goes, should I pull the car off to the side? Because they had the fucking lights lit and all that shit. He goes, maybe I should pull the car off to the side because there's traffic in front. I said, yeah, you can pull it right in front of the garage. Man, there's a spot right there. You can park the car right there. And then the second cop looks at me and he goes, holy fuck, are you Kevin Smith? And I I was so impressed that anyone 25 knew who the fuck I was, man. Let alone the fucking law and shit. And then the first cop turns on him instantly, goes, fucking of course it's Kevin Smith. I knew that when we opened the door and shit. And I was like, oh my God, you guys are adorable. You're making me feel so famous. Like, bro, my brother forced me to watch Mallrats my whole young life. He's going, I know exactly who you are and shit. And I was like, oh man, that's fucking awesome. I said, well, I tell you what, obviously I can't get it working here. I said, but if we go to my office, I'm plugged in on the landline. So why don't you come inside? Can you guys come inside? They're like, yeah, totally. We'll come in Silent Bob's house, you know. And I was like, absolutely and shit. So I bring them inside, and I'm heading down to my office with them, and they are gacked up, man. They're like in the full fucking gear. They look like they're on a TV show with the vests and shit, including a camera on their chest. And that was the first time I noticed that there was like a camera involved in this whole thing. And I swear to God, I've been in the entertainment business 30 years, so when I saw the camera on the cop's chest, the first thing I did, I sucked in my gut. I started like sucking and going, it's this way, guys, and trying to seem more buff than I fucking was and shit. Because I'd watch these videos on YouTube. I was like, I may wind up like one of these videos and shit. So I bring them into my office and whatnot, and I go to open up my laptop, and I plug in the landline and shit. I pull up the video and whatnot, and start scrolling and shit. And we're looking for it, and it's thinking again. And he's like, he's having the same problem. I was like, I know, man, fuck ADT, like, Jesus. They told me I had the top shelf and stuff. He goes, well, the signal's been down in the area and stuff like that. I said, yeah, man, I appreciate you guys being patient and shit. And I was like, you know, do you want anything? He's like, I got tons of souvenirs and shit like that. I was like, I got so much weed. They're like, thank you, we can't take that. I was like, I gave it up, so I got piles of it, man. He was like, good to know, not today. So as we're sitting there, like they're wearing their fucking gear, and they got this thing, little like walkie-talkie and shit, sitting right there. So as we're bullshitting, as I'm looking for the footage and whatnot, all of a sudden this thing on his shoulder goes, and then the guy goes, you know, and then this catches my attention, man. And so I look up, and the first cop don't look at me, he looks at the second cop, and he goes, there's been a shooting in Hollywood. Now, I live 2 blocks above fucking Hollywood Boulevard, so that's like literally my fucking neighborhood. I live in Hollywood shit. So when I heard shooting in Hollywood, I was like, you're kidding, there's a shooting that close and shit? And then out of fucking nowhere, from the fucking thing right on shit, all of a sudden I hear, and I was like, Jesus Christ, did somebody just get shot? And the guy goes, no, my bad, that's my ringtone. And he pulls his phone out. And I was like, don't you think that's an irresponsible ringtone? And he goes, it's from Lethal Weapon. As is that justified it. Long story short, they found the lady, so it all fucking worked out. All right. Now I'm reset and ready to go and shit. Kids, coming here always means the most to me. Somebody asked me in an interview today, like, why do you like doing it? And I was like, it's Hall H is the beginning of my business year. The beginning of my new year really starts here on this stage, and then all the adventures that I hope to go on unfold from here on out. And so coming here, it kind of feels like, okay, go. Like it begins again. And it feels like just 1 year ago, a little less, I guess it was a year and a week ago, that I was here, but I didn't do Hall H. Like I missed it last year. I mean, last year would have been the best year to do it, because that was the strike year and no fucking famous people were here. I was the most famous motherfucker at Comic-Con. Like when I walked backstage, I saw fucking like Pedro, and I saw all the Fantastic Four. I was like, I'm the least famous fucking person here. But last year, man, I would have been it on a fucking stick. So it's nice to be here. Nice to follow Marvel, although always very difficult, because Marvel comes into Hall H and fucks the shit out of it. And then I'm like a hot dog in a hallway afterwards, you know? Like people are like, is it in yet? I'm like, I don't know, I'm trying my best. You know, they put up footage after footage, like all the shit backstage is pretty astounding and whatnot. So I, too, come with a little bit of footage, man. And when I say I come with a little bit of footage, it's exactly as filthy as I fucking meant it. Last year when I was here, we left Comic-Con, went back east, and shot a movie in a movie theater that I have with my friends. It was a movie theater that we grew up going to, one town over from my hometown of Highlands, Atlantic Highlands. Movie theater is called the Atlantic Cinemas and stuff. My whole childhood, that was my movie theater. My father would take me to see movies there. My father took me to see Raiders of the Lost Ark there. And I saw him like light up, like I'd never seen him light up before. You know, I had a 70s dad, just kind of stern authority figure. He wasn't abusive or anything like that, but we weren't buddies and shit like that. We weren't like friends. Back then, like parents weren't friends with their kids. I raised my kid as a friend more so than like my daughter. Case in point, like I was going through a particularly like kind of a horrible sense of self-doubt about me as a parent when she hit like her 21st birthday and shit. Because I was like, oh my God, it just went by like that. Like I remember when, you know, Jennifer was just like, I'm pregnant. I was like, what the fuck? And then 21 years later, like she's an adult and she's kind of like off on her own and stuff. And so I'd asked her, like, you know, when I was feeling kind of insecure, I was like, kiddo, like, was I a good dad? And she goes, well, I never really thought of you as my dad so much as I thought of you as like my fun older brother who had a lot of money. And I was like, I don't bump into that at all, man. Like, that's the vibe I was going for, man. I didn't know how to raise a child, but I knew how to be friends with somebody and stuff. My dad and my mom, like that entire generation, they didn't really think like that. You know, they did on the Brady Bunch, but in real life, in practicality, parents and their kids weren't necessarily friends. And I didn't know my father beyond like, oh, that's my dad. He sets the tone. He's the one that tells you to go to bed. He's the one that, you know, goes out and works and shit like that. All the stereotypes. I didn't know him beyond that till he took me to that same movie theater to see Raiders of the Lost Ark when I was a kid, man. He'd taken me out of school. My mom told me, she's like, your dad's gonna come pick you up and a half day from school, take you to see a movie. I said, why? We go to the movies on Saturday. And she's like, because he's gonna start taking you to the movies every week. It was something that like me and my dad shared. And I always imagined it came from a conversation with my mom where she was like, you're missing these kids growing up. Because my dad worked at nights at the post office. And she was like, you're missing these kids, you're missing their entire childhood. You've gotta spend more time with them before it's gone. And my father was like, well, the fat one likes movies. I can take him to the movies. So, you know, my mom's like, he's gonna take you to the movies. And my dad, you know, I said to my mom, I was like, what do I tell Sister Ann Louise, man, about like fucking, it's a half day. I'm not supposed to be leaving school. And she goes, if they ask you at school, because I went to a Catholic school, they were like, just tell them that your aunt died last night. Because that's the kind of Catholic family we were. We were encouraged to lie to the clergy. So, you know, I went to school, and then at like 11:45, I got called down to the main office, and Sister Gloria Louise is like, Kevin, your father's here to pick you up. He's going to take you to your family's house. Your aunt passed away. I'm so sorry. I was like, oh yeah, it was all rather sudden. Like, we can't believe it. And she's like, well, your dad's out there. We'll pray for your aunt. And I was like, don't bother. And then I met my dad in the car. I was like, where are we going? He's going, we're going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. And so, you know, I was familiar with the movie because it's like, oh, Han Solo's in it and shit. My father was familiar with it for a completely different reason. He'd read a review and it captured his imagination. And I saw that come to life when he took me to the theater. My dad didn't really talk to me, talked at me, as a father did kind of back then, as most parents did. He didn't get deep into my psyche and stuff like that. You know, he was just trying to keep us alive, me and my brother and sister and shit. Never mind, like, find out where our happy centers were. Did we feel fulfilled? Shit like that. What were our dreams? So I'm sitting next to this guy who is my father, but technically a veritable stranger as much as I don't know the real him. But watching Raiders of the Lost Ark in that movie theater, sitting next to my father, I discovered the guy at the root of my father. I discovered Don Smith, like the dude my dad was before like fucking he knocked up my mom and stuff like that. The guy who was just a fan of things. Because as the movie was playing, my father, who never talked during movies, would not stop talking. 2 minutes into the movie, it fired him up, and he was turning to me and just talking a fucking blue streak. He was like, oh my God, this is a cliffhanger. This is exactly like the cliffhangers that I used to go to with your Aunt Barbara when I was a kid. We'd pay 50 cents, we'd go see a movie, and then we didn't get an ending. We had to go back the next week, and then we'd see the ending then. They're doing cliffhangers again. This is fantastic. Are you having a good time? I'm having a great fucking time. It was like he had done a line of coke off my mom's ass before the movie. But it was just fandom. I recognize it now for what it is. Naked fandom, where he was like, this touches me. This reminds me of something good from my fucking childhood. So that very theater is the same theater that like I grew up going to my whole life. And then a few years ago, it looked like it was going to be closing because of the pandemic and stuff. But me and a bunch of friends of mine pitched in and bought the place, renamed it Smod Castle Cinemas, and we've been running it for like 2 years now. there's an apartment over the movie theater whenever I'm, there's an apartment over the movie theater, and whenever I'm there, like, I get to fucking stay there. So, like, I'm a filmmaker who lives above a movie theater. It's like fucking adorable. It's like a cobbler who lives in a giant shoe. So one of the first things I noticed about the theater, man, because I spent a lot of time there and whatnot, like, is you get to eat all the free fucking snacks you want. So, you know, my apartment's right above it. All you smell is popcorn all day. I would just bomb downstairs and pick up popcorn and stuff. And my back door goes behind the concessions counter and then opens up behind the concession stand. And so we got a bunch of kids, high school kids, who work in the place and shit. And periodically I just bomb out of the back, open the door, like, Jesus Christ! I'm like, hey man, I'm just here for some popcorn, sorry. And I fuck off and go back upstairs. So I did that not too long ago. I was looking for some Twizzlers. I was like, I want some Twizzlers. Went downstairs, opened the door. Kid working there was like, holy shit. I was like, hey man, sorry, I just came for some Twizzlers. I live upstairs. And the kid goes, oh, I know about you. I heard about you. And I was like, what do you mean? What'd you hear about me? It's like everyone on staff talks about you. They say that sometimes you just appear out of the walls and then disappear like Homer Simpson into the bush. I was like, oh, right on, man. That's cool. He goes, they got a name for you, a nickname. I was like, get out of here. What do they call me? He goes, they call you the Phantom and shit. So, hanging around the movie theater, this is a movie theater it's been a movie theater for over 100 years. It's been a cinema. It started as a single screen. In my childhood, it went to 2 screens, then it went to 3, 4, and there's 5 different cinemas under one roof. Biggest theater is like 230 seaters, smallest one's like a 90 seater. Thing about it is this fucker was built so long ago. So when I sit in the movie theater now, I'm sitting in the same seats that I sat in when I went to see Friday the 13th Part 2 when I was a fucking kid. Nothing has changed about the place. So me and the folks who bought it, I bought it with my friends, we were talking about doing refurbishments, and that's when I was like, oh no. Like, if we own a movie theater, now we own a free set. And if we own a set, we're duty bound to shoot a movie here and stuff. So I wrote a movie about the stuff I used to do when I was a kid in the 80s going to the movies. Some people thought that it would be kind of like Clerks in a movie theater, but I never worked in a movie theater, so I wouldn't even know how to go about that. What I did at movie theaters my whole life and what I continue to do is you know, take it in, take the journey. Have them tell me one more time the lie that tells the truth. Try to understand the world through a prism that makes more sense to me. So the idea of making a movie about people who work in a movie theater, that's for somebody better than me who's gone through that experience. I just wanted to make a movie about being a fan, particularly back then. Since the movie theater looks so fucking old, as long as we never pointed a camera outside into the real world where it looked like 2023, as long as we point the camera inside the theater, it looked 1980s. It's still, and really it was like kind of refurbishments from like 1960s. So the whole thing looked period. So I was like, oh my God, I could shoot a period movie without having to spend a lot of money. Like, all I have to do is not fix anything and shoot. So that's what we did. We didn't fix anything, and we shot a movie that I wrote and directed that's based on a magical summer when I was a kid in 1986. The movie takes place on May 25th, 1986. And it's about a kid who goes on a date and at the same time tries to hang out with his friends at the movie theater the way I used to, pay for one movie and then jump from movie to movie to movie. So it's a movie about movie hopping, and it's a movie about kids who watch movies. So at one point we're watching kids watch a fucking movie and shit. But most of all, it's a movie about how profoundly movies affect us, and I can't think of a better fucking place to debut the trailer for my brand new movie, the 4:30 movie. You wanna see it, kids? Thanks to the good folks at Spawn Films, the ones who helped us make Jay and Silent Bob reboot, man. Last summer, we shot this flick, and what can I tell you about it before the trailer does? You know what, I'll let the trailer speak for itself, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Without further ado, I ain't like Marvel where I'm like, shut your fucking cameras off. Shoot this all you want, kids. Shoot it and share it with everybody you fucking know. Without further ado, let's check out the trailer for the 4:30 movie, shall we?
unlike any nun you've ever met. And she's got a secret.
How come the nuns were never secret hookers when we were in school?
Let's see what's under that wig.
Oh, hell no! Say a prayer for Sister Sugar Walls.
Well, we're definitely seeing that.
May 25th, 1986. Today is a big day. Last summer, I was too scared to ask out Melody Barnegat, the raddest woman I ever met. But this morning, I invited her to the movies, and she said, okay. Seriously? Hold on 1 second. Cool. I'll see you at the 4:30 movie, Melody Barnegat.
I'll see you at the 4:30 movie.
Well, holy shit, Billy Idol. When's the white wedding?
I've been thinking about asking Melody out all year. We made out in her pool last summer.
One time, with your shirt on. And you wonder why you don't get laid.
I don't get laid because I'm Catholic. We'll save seats, you get snacks.
You can't give them cutsies when they get back. I'll tell my dad.
I don't care what you tell your dad, little kid.
Dad, he showed me his privates.
You did what?
You disgust me! Get up! You three stooges are banned for life! Fuck my left nut! Not today!
So much drama. I thought we're supposed to be seeing a comedy.
Oh my God! Hoorah! What in the damn hell? What about me? Jesus Christ!
Most people come to movies to escape their lives, but people like you come here because movies make life make sense.
You're the coolest girl I ever met, and all I want to do is watch movies with you.
Is that so?
Mom?
What the hell are you doing sneaking into R-rated movies? You're in trouble, Missy.
I'm terrified by what's about to happen.
What do you want to do?
Have sex and get pregnant. That'll show her.
If that's what you need.
Remember Rocky IV?
Yeah.
When he just like punched him so hard?
Yeah.
Remember that?
It's the climax.
He climaxed?
Sadly, there's no Thor in it, but it's still pretty watchable. Yes, RDJ would have certainly helped. It's a wonderful young cast that I got to work with and whatnot, and it was honestly the only movie I could have made after getting out of the institution. Like I was pretty fragile at that point, and this movie is kind of fragile too. I kind of go further back than I've ever really gone before. All of my flicks are roughly semi-autobiographical. I'm not very creative. I just take shit that happened to me and put it into a movie, which like for some people are like, wait, what about the rubber poop monster? I was like, that fucking happened. So I tend to go back to the 90s, and that's where I started with Clerks, and then most of my stuff kind of goes right back to that point, to this very tender 5-year period of my life right before Clerks happened. This time around, we go back a little deeper, and it's kind of like a secret origin story of yours truly. Austin Zazier isn't playing me, so to speak, but he's playing a character named Brian David, which was the original name my parents wanted to give me. And then someone else had a Brian David on the same day in the nursery, and so my mom was like, well, we can't name our kid that. What if they mix the babies up and shit like that? And I'm not sure that didn't happen. But my mom right then and there was just like, you know what, we're gonna name him something else. And they went way, generally all the names in my family came from other family members. But for some reason, she went with Kevin Patrick with me. And my grandmother was so funny. She was always like, who the fuck is Kevin Patrick, the mailman? And my mom was like, well, I do fuck a mailman, so yes. Because my father worked at the post office. So this movie kind of goes back to that time. Like Jason Lee plays a version of my dad, which was kind of fun to shoot. Rachel Dratch plays a version of my mom. Nick Cirola plays a version of my friend Ernie O'Donnell. Reed plays a version of my friend Michael Bellicose, Belly. And Sienna Agudon plays a version of my high school girlfriend, Kim Lockman. So it's a really sweet fucking movie. And I went out of my way to make it a PG-13 because when we were kids, nobody cursed. We weren't allowed to curse. Like, I would have been crucified if I used the term motherfucker when I was a kid. That came after I met Jason Mewes. So So it felt like inauthentic to have them all cursing and whatnot. So going into it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it a PG-13, man. Like, what? Why not? Because there's nothing really to go for hard R content. And so I shot what I felt was a PG-13 movie, but then they gave us an R rating, as you saw, for like sexual content. And I was like, what sexual content, man? And so I tried to arbitrate. I went into the arbitration process, where I've done that before, where you can argue the rating that you get with the MPAA and possibly argue it down without having to make any cuts. And I've been able to do that successfully 4 times over the course of my career, where they gave me 1 rating and then we argued it down to another rating without losing anything. So I was like, oh shit, man, I'm gonna do it again, one more time. And you know, it was via Zoom. It used to be like you were in the room with everybody and stuff. It was via Zoom, which was totally cool. And how they structure it is like you get 10 minutes to plead your case, they get 10 minutes to plead their case. You get like 5 minutes to rebut, they get 5 minutes to rebut, and then you get to make a closing statement, they get to make a closing statement, and that's it. The they is the NPA, the ratings board. The me would be me representing the film. The audience during the arbitration process are members of a group called NATO, which sounds really fucking important, but it's not. It's the National Association of Theater Owners, which I am now a part of because I own a movie theater with my friends and shit. So NATO, they're the judges because they're the last line of defense, because they're the exhibitors, they're the ones that actually show the movies. They know what gets an audience member off their feet complaining and stuff like that. So historically, for years, I had to listen to that and be like, all right, well, I understand, that would make sense. But now I own a movie theater, so I felt like I was good to go, because I was like, oh, I'll tell you what gets people off their feet. Nothing. Like fucking nobody cares about cursing anymore, because we have the internet and they could watch people fuck a horse if they want to. Like, what are you protecting them for? So I went in and pled my case where I was like, kids, like I know how to make an R-rated movie, and I really wasn't trying this time. I was trying not to make an R-rated movie. And nobody uses the F word a single time, let alone any kind of combination of the F word and whatnot. And if you make this movie R-rated, then you're saying essentially this movie is tantamount to The Human Centipede, another R-rated movie and stuff. And I was damn sure we don't have any fucking luscious ass eating in our movie, so, and I felt like pretty strong about it. And they were like, you know what? When they spoke, they were like, honestly, Kevin, we were really on the fence about whether to go for an R or PG-13, but like there's just so much conversation about masturbation in this movie. And I was like, no, there's not. And they listed 16 fucking examples of people talking about jerking off and coming. And I was like, why did I think this was PG-13? So when you see the flick, it's going to be like, you might be waiting a long time for somebody to say something remotely controversial. There's nothing in there. There's nothing remotely edgy. It's about as edgy as a spoon. But it's warm and fucking wonderful, man. And it represents my soft little heart at that particular time in my life. All the movies are a snapshot of where I was when shit was going on in my life and whatnot. And so this movie, I think, is a perfect representation of where I was when we made it, when I got out of the fucking nut house. Now, that's coming September 13th. You're gonna be able to see it in theaters. People have asked, are you touring it? I'm not going to tour it, but we are going to have a bunch of screenings of the movie at Smodcastle Cinemas, including like the world premiere we're going to do there. And the tickets for that are going to go on sale on Monday when the trailer goes online and stuff. But I'm not going to tour it around the country. Saban is goodly enough, like we're just going to put it out in theaters like normal people. And I was like, fuck, that's awesome. So you may be able to watch it in a theater near you. And I can't wait for you to see it, man. It's awfully sweet. If you grew up in the 80s, it's a real time tunnel and shit like that. No Stranger Things happened, but it is very much in the 80s with bikes and shit like that. So that's coming September 13th. And then this fall, after that, I wish I'd come prepared like the Marvel folks. Like, the Marvel folks had this whole fucking trailer just to introduce the Russo brothers. Like, it was amazing. It's like all the shots from their movies, and then the title was like, The Russos Are Back and shit. And I was like, wow, they have so much more money than me. Not just the Russos, Disney in general. And so I didn't prepare like a fucking clip for like what's coming, but I am happy to stand here and tell you that this fall, I'm gonna make my 17th movie. The 4:30 movie is my 16th film. I wanna get to 20 before I drop dead, man. But 20, like, I'm not going for quantity, I'm going for quality. Yoga hosers be damned. So, 16th movie is coming out. The the 17th movie we start shooting in the fall, and it's a Jay and Silent Bob movie. Every once in a while, somebody's like, "Why do you keep fucking doing this?" And I'm like, "That's why, man. Like, fucking somewhere, somebody's always happy to see it." And so I've talked about it a bunch, but I haven't said the title yet. So I figured, like, in the spirit of Marvel letting us know that it's Avengers Doomsday, my title was also Avengers Doomsday. So I had to quick switch it out. And so the title of my forthcoming flick, the one that we're going to shoot in the fall that won't be out until next year, hopefully I'll be here next year on the stage at Comic-Con showing you a trailer for a movie called Jay and Silent Bob, Store Wars. Just beating that fucking Star Wars joke to the death, kids. It's about Jay and Silent Bob running a dispensary, and they get into competition with another dispensary. So it's essentially like a live-action Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner movie, where shit just ups and ups and ups. It's kind of funny, so I can't wait to show you some stuff next year. Okay, we've been at this for a little while now. Let's open it up to you folks. That's why you come for the Q&A and whatnot. So let's find out what you want to talk about. There's a microphone over there. So I wouldn't recommend a ton of folks line up because I tend to get very long fucking answers and shit. I love the sound of my own voice. It's called Q&A. It's a little bit of Q. It's a metric fuck ton of A. So we're gonna begin with you. What's your name, Captain?
Hi, my name is Sarah Hall.
Hold on, one more.
Sarah?
Everyone give it up for Sarah. Sarah's first. Sarah, let me tell you, today I moderated the Simpsons panel in the morning at 12 o'clock, and Matt Groening was on the panel, and every time somebody asked a question, he had this gigantic pad that he had drawn all the Simpsons characters in, and he tore off the sheet, and he gave it to whoever asked a question with like some gigantic, expensive fucking Simpsons toys. It's so impressive. We won't be doing that. So the reward here is just like you asking and shit. But I wish I could make it better for you. So after the place, find me. I have some weed for you. Anyway, over to you. Right into the microphone so I can hear them.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm flying back to Texas.
Oh, well, here's the good news. Flying out of California, they don't give a fuck, man.
Okay.
They're like, take all the weed you want. We got plenty.
Okay.
And the way I understand it, they don't check you when you land in Texas. You just don't want to fly from Texas with weed.
Okay.
I mean, technically, kids, you never want to fly with weed. It's against the law. But you can fly from California. We don't give a shit.
Good to know.
I try to help, man. The A's are here for the Q's.
So, 4 months ago,
Okay.
my husband and I opened a comic book store.
All right, so that is number one. Absolutely fucking tremendous. That's noble work right there, man. We need more comic book stores. We lost so many during COVID. But I'll be honest with you, man. For my whole career, I've always been waiting for somebody to get up to the mic and be like, my husband and I would like to fuck in front of you. So, when you said my husband and I was like, this is it. And I was about to be like, good night, everybody. And fucking. But I'm sure this will be just as interesting. Go.
Sorry, my daughter's in the 6th grade.
Why did you fucking lead with that? Kid, I went to a nut house. I know a great trauma therapist. I'll give you a number. And some weed.
She's flying to Amsterdam in about a week and a half, so.
Don't bring weed there, they have plenty.
Question. Oh!
You've opened a store. What's the store called? First off, here, my first lesson in business, tell people the name of the store.
The name of the store is D20 Comics and Games.
D20 Comics and Games located?
Hollyville, Texas.
Hollyville, Texas.
Yes.
Right on, man. And what is that, what's that near for those of us that aren't familiar?
Fort Worth area.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
a comic book store for us is a lot different experience than you buying a comic book store and taking it over and making it your own.
Way to put me in the 1%, man. Like, I'm trying to relate to these people. I'm like, oh, we couldn't all buy a comic book store. No, you're absolutely right. To be fair, though, I did mine back in, let me see, what was the year? 1995, 96? That's when, yeah, 96, because 97 we officially took over. The guy who ran the place, it was called Comicology. If you ever see the cut opening sequence from Chasing Amy, we shot a sequence in that comic book store. When the dude, I went in one day, I always got my comics there and stuff. He gave me a pretty sweet discount, like 40% and stuff. So one day I came in, he goes, me and my wife are moving to Taiwan or Thailand, one of the Thais. And he's like, she's gonna teach English over there. So I'm gonna close the store. And I was like, oh my God, it's a fucking bummer. And he goes, well, I've always heard you say that one day you wanted to own a comic book store. So he's going, would you like to take it over? And I was like, oh my God, like I had thought about like one day when I retire, that's how I would retire, behind the counter of a comic book store. I said, I hadn't thought about doing it so soon, but like, you know, I honestly, I don't know that I could afford that kind of thing. And he goes, well, what I'm looking for all the contents of the store, and the client list and stuff like that, you'd have to pay rent in the building, is 60 grand. And this was 1997, so I was like, I go, 60 grand, man, because I was just saying it out loud, right, as I was processing. And before I could say a fucking word, he goes, okay, 30 grand. So like, he outbid himself. And so I was like, I mean, done and done. Like, you know, I had spent $27,575 making Clerks. For an additional, like, 24, 25, I could maintain a second dream, like make a second dream come true, not just for me, but for my good friend Walter Flanagan. See, he told me at one point, like a long time ago, we were talking, I said we were comic book shopping and shit. Went to a bunch of shows in New York and New Jersey one weekend. And as we were driving back, I was like, fucking comics are awesome. And sometimes you're just filled with the spirit. Like, fucking comics are awesome. It'd be so awesome to work to own a comic book store. And Walter goes, oh, not me. I would never want to own a comic book store. That's too much responsibility. But I'd love to work in one because I get a sweet fucking discount and shit. So I remember that, and in that moment, I was like, 30 grand, I could make Walter's dream come true and mine at the same time. And like, that's not a bad price for a turnkey fucking business and shit. So I told the dude, like, all right, let's do this. And that was the tail end of 1996 going into 1997. I have never run the business myself. It's been run by Walter for years, Mike Zapsik, my friend Brian Johnson ran it before Walter Flanagan and stuff, and a host of other people they've had work with them over the years, including Jason Mewes. Jason Mewes used to like tend the counter all the time. And this was back in his like substance abuse days and shit. So sometimes I'd come into the comic book store and there'd be like people in the store. There's one time this couple from Rhode Island. They're like, oh my God, we drove all the way from Rhode Island. I was like, Rhode Island, that's fucking far, man. Like, nice to meet you and stuff. I was like, where's Jay? And they were like, oh, he asked us to watch the store. He went to get smokes. You know, so I've been in a brick and mortar comic book store business for 27 years at this point, but although personally I can't take all the credit, most of the cats did the hard work and the heavy lifting, I just paid the bills. But it has been so incredibly rewarding and stuff. So I feel you. What you're doing is far more impactful on your life than what I did was on mine. Because at the end of the day, if it all would have stopped or fallen apart, I would have been like, oh, that sucks, let me go make a movie or something like that. So I can appreciate, man, that like this is a big fucking move for you. And it is bigger than the move that I made for myself. You've succeeded in making me feel small and petty. Anyway, back to you, so go ahead.
Inspirational. So the question. What about...
I told you, metric fuck ton of A. Sometimes the Q doesn't even fucking matter.
I'm having a good time, so I'm good.
You and me both.
What about owning and being involved in running a comic book store surprised you the most?
And honestly, in my case, it was shocking, and it still remains shocking to me that we're still doing it, that we're still above ground. Not because the people that run it haven't been good at it, of course, they're the ones that like have kept it open all this time. But my brand of whimsy is so fucking old. This year is the 30th anniversary of Clerks. It came out 30 years ago, which means Jay and Silent Bob, Jay and Silent Bob are 30 years old as a concept. The guy who plays him is way fucking older. But as a concept, as a thing, 30 years. So I never imagined they would make it very far. Like, to me, they were always like a Cheech and Chong ripoff and shit. So I never knew they'd have this incredible life of their own. Calling the store Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash was no thought went into longevity. It was like, oh, that's what we're doing in the world right now, let's call it that. And in many ways, it has been the standard bearer when we haven't had things to do. The comic book store is always there. The dream of it was like, hey, let's put things in it, like, you know, showcase props from the movies and costumes, our own version of Planet Hollywood and stuff. So it's been absolutely delightful for nearly 30 years at this point. But probably the most surprising thing to me is that it's still going. Like, you know, we've had lean years, we've had years where like we were in the red and stuff. Most of the time we've always been in the black. That we're still doing it at this point is what blows me away. That and the folks who stayed with us since the beginning. We have some reservists who've been with us since we took over the place. You know, and you're deeply entrenched in their lives and vice versa. So that always affects me. Like, seeing people in the store who I've seen dozens of times before, if not 100 times before, because they'll keep coming back. Being a part of the community, you know, because we're in this town of Red Bank, it's really nice, and we're a fixture. Whenever they write about us outside of the world, when they write, you know, articles about the 10 best places in New Jersey and the 50 to stay the fuck away from, we're always in like the top 10 and stuff. So it's incredibly meaningful, but I didn't expect it to go this long. You know, as a person who ran from the world of retail, you know, when I made Clerks and Clerks got picked up, I was like, awesome, I never have to do that again. Then I went and bought a retail store, and I've been in retail like ever since, so I didn't get very far. It's like I remember Bruce Springsteen, I went to see a Bruce Springsteen concert, and he talked about like, I'm the guy that wrote Born to Run, and then I moved 10 minutes from my house, you know. So similar kind of vibe there. Not similar like, hey, me and Bruce are the same, not at all. But similar kind of thought process. What about you? What has been your most surprising thing?
How many people have embraced the idea of the store? Said, oh, we've needed this here, and been so excited. We partnered with the local library for their summer reading program. Pardon me. And they
So important. I read an article this morning about how kids don't read anymore.
so we gave them a couple, and they bought a couple gift cards for our store as prizes for their program. And we actually had a daughter and mother come in just this past weekend, and they were just, the mom was floored. The daughter was the one that had that gift card, and then the mom just got sucked into memories of childhood and the pop culture things that she loved, and she was getting excited. That was just wonderful.
And you get to foster that. Like, think about, like, it is so important to provide as much happiness as one can to others in this life and to yourself. The other thing they taught me in the fucking mental hospital was like, put your mask on before putting on somebody else's. I've spent my life doing the reverse. I'm codependent people pleaser, so I'm always trying to help people before I help my fucking self. But one of my favorite things that I've been able to do over the course of my career is put a fucking smile on somebody's face just by having the store exist when they walk in and see pieces of their childhood. When we had the show, Comic Book Men, for 7 seasons, one of my favorite aspects of that is like meeting people who are like, I watched the show with my kid. Their kid's like 11 years old. And he's like, and all the stuff you show I used to have. Like, that's why the show was made in the first place, man. Because just like the feeling I had backstage during this panel, during the Marvel panel. Like, when I came in, I had a busy day. I was doing things, and taking pictures, doing press, signing things, and moderating panels. So by the time I got backstage, you know, I was like, all right, I'm gonna get to kick back. This was my reward. Like, I like going to the Marvel panel and seeing what's gonna happen and shit. But, you know, I approached it as like, oh, I'm gonna learn learn some new things. I forgot how magical it could fucking be and how it could dial my clock back. So I went from being a 53-year-old, nearly 54-year-old man sitting in the back to like a child again when fucking Dr. Doom took off his mask and it was Robert Downey Jr. That shit makes a motherfucker light. And we need more of that in life. Lightness and stuff. And you provide that. So thank you for that. Hey, what's your name? Hey, good
It's
seeing
us,
you.
Kevin.
Excellent seeing you.
Excellent seeing
Give me
you.
your names so we can give it to everybody.
Mike and Nate.
I and Nick.
Mike and Nate.
Mike and Nate. Give it up for Mike and Nate. They're next.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. It's good seeing you again. I see you every year.
Good seeing you too.
Although last year we skipped and shit.
Yeah. Well, you know, you had to correct yourself, and
I
that's
did.
okay. That's
I
fine
kind
with me.
of took Hall H off. I'll be honest with you because I love doing Hall H, but there's always this moment when I walk out that I'm like, oh, what if nobody's fucking there and stuff. It's a big ass room, man. Like when I first started in Hall H, it was a 3,000 seater. Now it's 6,500. So I couldn't fill 3,000. So when it's 6,500, every time I walk out here, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be fucking empty. Probably because I'm still have traumatic flashbacks of when J.J. Abrams stole the entire fucking audience to go show up at Star Wars concerts. So last year, having gotten just fresh out the joint, I was like, you know what, man, I can't do that to myself. I can't like go up on stage and if people aren't there, feel depressed. Like, you know, so much of my value is predicated on what you have to say about me, and that's horrible. I wish I could generate my own sense of self-worth, but since I'm an entertainer, most of how I feel about myself is predicated on how the audience feels about me. So last year I was like, I'm too tender to put myself in that situation. What if I walk out there and there's fucking 5 people and shit? So I was like, I'm gonna allow myself to take the year off. And I remember feeling like, well, what if that's it? You know, because I had a heart attack 6 years ago, almost fucking died. What if that was my last chance? What if I dropped dead between now and then? And honestly, that was the one thing that gave me pause all year long, where I was like, don't die, you have to get back to Hall H one more fucking time. And now, because the Marvel panel, thank you, because the Marvel panel mix, they were like, in 2 years, we'll be back with fucking Doomsday. Now I have a reason to live 2 more fucking years. I'm gonna see RDJ playing Dr. Doom, that's gonna be astounding. Anyway.
I was blown away when I saw that. When you must have been going crazy as much as I have.
fucking screamed backstage, and the folks who work here, they've known me because I'm here over the years. They're always very sweet. Like I'm the last guy on Saturday nights, so they're always very sweet. Like we love seeing you, but like hurry the fuck up, we want to go home. So they're absolutely fucking wonderful. I was surrounded by them backstage, and when that happened, because they were building it up, going like, we need a great actor, the greatest actor, and I'd seen all the people who were on the panel backstage already. So I saw like the Fantastic Four before they went up and stuff, and I didn't see anybody. Like I saw a parade of Dr. Dooms as they brought them all backstage. I was like, holy shit, they're gonna announce fucking like one of the Avengers movies. Dr. Doom, this is crazy. But I did not expect they were gonna announce the actor and shit. So as I was watching it, I thought it was just gonna be them going like, and Dr. Doom's the villain. And then as they start doing the build up, I was like, well wait, who the fuck was back here, man? I didn't see anybody that could be of the caliber they're talking about. And when he took off that fucking mask, I was like, oh! Just cummed so hard. Yeah, cover those ears. Sorry.
So I try to have my son watch Clerks, and
it's black and white.
He loved the black and white.
It's okay.
But here's the thing. We got to the point where the clown goes behind the wall at the door, and then he's wearing fishnet stockings, and he was like, what's that all about? And I was like, I don't know, maybe we should ask Kevin. But then, we're going to be in the movie, right? We got all the way to when you guys show up, and Jason goes, motherfucking fuck, and my wife's like, no, we can't watch it anymore. So that's as far as we got. But what movies would you suggest for Nate to see at his age? I mean, he doesn't mind violence and stuff like that, so like, would Red State be okay?
Oh God. Oh, my movies?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you gotta see Endgame. Of my stuff. Of my stuff, the most user-friendly, I feel, how old are you? 10. Oh my God, I was cursing at Blue Street. Ask your dad about what all that meant. approachable for a 10-year-old. It's probably the least filthy of all the stuff I've ever done. Clerks is rather frank and dirty. Chasing Amy's kind of grown up. Dogma is also a pretty good watch for a kid as well. So of those, I mean, and of course, if you want to help me out because nobody saw it, Yoga Hosers is worth the story. But don't show him Tusk until he's 40. That makes me so happy that you watch the movies with your kid, and that's like how I got started. Me and my dad watching movies together. You be careful, you may be raising a filmmaker right there. Give it up for Mike. What's your name, Captain?
Hey Kev, Alan right here.
What's your name?
Alan.
What is it?
Alan.
Alan?
Yeah, Alan.
Alan, give it up for Alan. Alan's next.
Well, I think we all know the story, Kev. It all started with Slacker, that beautiful film from Mr. Richard Linklater.
Oh, yes.
As a fanboy, like one of my ultimate Comic-Con wet dreams is having a panel between you and the great Rick Linklater that would make my nerd boy pretty excited. So hopefully someday we'll see it. And I wanted to ask you because beyond Slacker, I don't think I've heard you talk enough, more about Linklater. And I've always wondered, after Slacker, what's your favorite Richard Linklater film?
In terms of films, probably Before Sunrise. The entire Before series is wonderful. But in terms of movies, hands down, it's School of Rock, still to this day. Number one, an enjoyable fucking movie. You'd have to be a Nazi robot not to enjoy it. But number two, my kid was little when that movie came out. She was like 3 or 4 years old. And you want to talk about transformative cinema. By the time we get to the Battle of the Bands at the end, and the School of Rock gets up and plays their song, my kid, like many kids in the theater, on her feet in the aisles, dancing. I've made a lot of movies. I've never seen anyone compelled to get up and fucking dance because of Jay and Silent Bob, I've seen people get compelled to get up and fucking leave the theater. But I've never, made somebody get so filled with the spirit, man, that they jump to their feet. So as much as I love the movie and Jack Black's performance is astounding and whatnot, just the memory of how that movie affected my kid makes me love it even more. And I'll cherish that till the day I fucking die. But I love everything that Richard does, man. All the Fast Food Nation has one of my favorite Bruce Willis scenes of all time. He has one scene in the movie, but he's fucking fantastic in it. And Richard got that out of him. So yeah, I adore Linklater. If I had not seen Slacker, as mentioned, I never would have thought about making films in the first place. So I spent years blowing him up out in the world, when people didn't know who he was, right? Going, I saw this movie called Slacker, this filmmaker, Richard Linklater, he did Dazed and Confused and stuff. I was his publicist for a long time. Then, what's Boy's Life? Is that the movie? Boyhood, thank you. Boy's Life was amazing. Boyhood came out, and I never needed to explain who he was to anybody ever again. Because he ran for the Oscars and whatnot, and that was such a stunning fucking cinematic achievement. So yeah, he's the absolute fucking best of us, and without him, I never would have started my journey in the first place. So thank you for affording me the opportunity to shout out somebody who is so fucking integral to my journey. I meet a lot of people at Comic-Con who are very kind to me, who are like, because you did a thing, I did a fucking thing. And I know what that means because I did a thing because Richard did a thing. You gotta see it before you can be it, man. And it doesn't mean you can't be original, but you have to be able to conceive of the possibility of the thing happening. He made filmmaking seem achievable, possible. And because of him, I gave it a shot, and we're having this conversation. So thank you for that. I was on a panel with him years ago, 1997, when I was at South by Southwest. I was on a panel. It was me, Richard, Robert Rodriguez, Quentin, Mike Judge, Steven Soderbergh. And I was like, one of these things is not like the other. But I was just so fucking happy to be up there, man. And it was pretty cool. They've never let me be on a panel that cool ever again, so I guess they didn't like Jane Silent Bob Strike Back and shit. Thank you. Over to you, Cap. What's your name?
Carlos.
Carlos, give it up for Carlos. He's next.
So just like you, I also quote The Simpsons and reference The Simpsons on the daily. In fact, so many people are sick of it, but I don't care. Anyway, since Clerks, the animated series revival, doesn't seem to in the cards, have you ever thought of doing any other animated series, like adult animated series?
It's so weird you say, because there's one that I've been toying with lately. Everything begins as a whimsy, right? It all begins as kind of like, imagine that, wouldn't that be cool? Like, it could be like this. You just start building something in your head. And most whimsies kind of, people let them go after that. You know, they whimsy about like just doing something and then kind of let it go and concentrate on real life. I'm the other guy. I'm like, the whimsy stays with me and I nurture it. And I try to make it something. I try to bring it into the real world. And so it's not just an idea, but something that actually fucking exists. So lately I've been whimsying about this cartoon that I can't draw for shit, so I would obviously need somebody, you know, I'd team up with an accomplished animator, or even a fucking amateur animator, to be honest with you, because I don't think the idea is too difficult. I was just about to share it, but I don't want to say what it is yet. It's not like Jane Bob or anything like that. It's a kind of standalone thing based on a conversation I had on a podcast about 6 months ago. So it's so fortuitous that you bring it up. Because now, you know, after all this, I'll be driving home back to Los Angeles. And I spend the 2 hours, generally I've always spent the 2 hours thinking about what went on before. Like the whole ride home, generally I'll always think about all the shit that happened in Hall H. I start beating myself up like, oh, you could have done this, and why didn't you do this, and what the fuck? So I'm trying to learn not to relitigate the past and stuff. So instead, on the ride home, what I'm gonna concentrate on is this fucking idea, because you reminded me that I wanna do a thing, and the way you phrased the question, you know, in terms of like, do you have any other cartoon you wanna do? Like, it was just perfect timing. If this fucking thing winds up happening, what's your name? Carlos what? We can't send a check to Carlos. Carlos what? Salcedo? You on Twitter? You got an IMDb credit? You lucky fuck. On what? You were a PA for a short film? Watch this. Carlos, do me a favor. Say the line, I'm not even supposed to be here today. Excellent job. Cut. You have been directed by Kevin Smith. You have another IMDb credit. But someone remember this moment, because if I do wind up making a cartoon, Carlos, what do you do for a living? You work at Disneyland? Oh my God, you do the Lord's work. If I wind up doing this, I promise you in front of God and this entire establishment, if I wind up doing this cartoon, I'm gonna bring you on as a writer. Now people will be like, ooh, fucking nepotism, fuck all those people. And I don't even know if you can write, but you know what? It's a cartoon, you don't really need a writer anyway. But the fact that you fucking like sparked me, and that's what I'm gonna drive home thinking about. Not fucking like, what did I do wrong, but what could I do right? That is meaningful, so thank you. I hope we do it, man. Just so you can get a fucking job. Then we'll make all those Disneyland jokes.
Hey.
What's your name, Captain?
I'm Jake Pallet. And
Jake?
I work at a movie theater. So I work at Regal Mira Mesa, and one of the assistant managers actually knows you, and he met you at Comic-Con. Do you know Cody Jones?
Yes!
You know that name?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's one of the managers there.
Fucking A.
Yeah. And oh yeah, my question is, dude, don't
Jesus. Hey, slow the fuck down. You went right from my my clit, man. Kiss me first. Hold my nipples. We'll get there. We'll get there. It's all for you.
Yeah, so
What's your name again?
I'm Jake Pallet. So I'm,
Jake?
Yeah.
Everyone
so,
give it up for Jake. He's next.
So I want.
Soak that in. That's a good moment. People will
Yeah.
call me.
So I want to be an actor, and I'm starting out. I graduated college.
Okay.
I got my bachelor's degrees in theater arts, and I'm only 23 years old. So I would love to be in one of your movies, please. Like
Done
audition.
it here. This is so fucking easy to do. Like seriously. I mean, fucking look at the people I work with. They got careers for less than this. The key to being in a Kevin Smith movie, I swear to you, this is not facetious. This is absolutely fucking true. You just have to be where that movie is shooting. It's that simple. If you're there, guess what? You get pulled into it. We had some kids who sat on the corner across from Quick Stop while we were making Clerks 3 the whole time, just watching. And so one day we were outside shooting our outside exterior sequence in front of the store. So I was like, come on over, man, walk through the frame and shit. And they were like, are you serious? I was like, fuck yeah, you're here. So all you have to do is be there. Now, if you're talking about getting a speaking part, generally I say I write those for people that I know. You know what I'm saying? Like I always cast the same people over and over again because I've worked with them, they're very familiar. And this is generally when we make flicks, now that we're all grown up and we have families and shit, that's the only time I get to see those people and hang out with my fucking friends. So I don't just write parts for the particular cast members because I think they're the best actors for those parts. I write it so I get to hang out with them again, like we used to and shit. It's rather sad and pathetic to admit, but fucking true. So, the speaking part's generally for people I've known for like 30 fucking years. But being on camera in a Kevin Smith movie, shockingly fucking easy. Just be anywhere where the movie is being made. And I think Star Wars may be shooting in Atlanta. There's a heads up for you. Thanks, man. Captain, what's your name?
Scott.
Give it up for Scott. Scott's next. How are you, Scott?
I'm pretty good, thank you. I just wanted to say one thing and ask one question. I'm 53 years old myself.
Oh shit, when's your birthday?
I'll be 54 in April.
So you just turned 53?
That's right.
Right on, man. I turn 54 next week.
Well, happy birthday in advance.
You're still alive. Look at this shit. And we're like middle-aged men. Like, do you remember when you were young and vibrant and shit? And you're like, oh my God, 50, that's for old fucks. And now we are the old fucks.
I was young but never vibrant. My brother and I are...
I'll be the judge of that.
My brother and I are down here from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Oh, fucking A, man.
We've been coming down here since 2012. And every year that you've held a panel, we've been here.
You're the fucking two. Thank you.
We did your when you hosted in the bar up in this town. We were at your evening with Kevin Smith when you were up in Edmonton as well.
You went to the show in Edmonton at the what is it, Meyer Horowitz Center?
We did.
Fucking A, thank you.
So I just want to let you know that as a 50-year-old, the only year we haven't been down is in 2016 when we lost our father.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And
how'd he go? What'd you lose him to?
Congestive heart failure.
Fuck.
But I just want to let you know that as a person who has never explored the artistic elements of himself, I only have three loves in my life, which is comics, my family, and movies. I'm not sure which order that goes sometimes. But I've been here every year and I've enjoyed watching your shows, and I don't think you have to worry about whether or not there's going to be a crowd here for you, because every year I've watched your journey.
I know you have to do that, otherwise it might go crazy again. Thank you.
I have extremely fond memories of watching Beverly Hills Cop with my father in the 80s, and watching him almost have a stroke, watching Dumb and Dumber and Toilet Scene. And I'm really looking forward to your movies of childhood in the 80s, because I think as a 50-year-old man, I remember the picking up the phone and trying to ask a girl out, almost having a stroke, the process. And I just wanted to know that your stories that you've shared over the years about your love of discovery of marijuana and perhaps the inspiration for yoga hosers and other inspirational stories has been a very enjoyable experience for me and my brother, and that's why we keep coming back.
Fucking means the world, man. Like, why can't you Americans say something that fucking nice? We had a parade of Americans, they all wanted some shit. Alberta gets up here and he's like, you're fucking awesome.
So, my question for you...
Oh, there's a fucking question.
Did you get a chance to watch the finals, and were you rooting for our Oilers?
Of course. I was watching the finals. I started watching, I was preoccupied with a friend of mine, Logic, the rap artist, made a film. And so I went up and made his film with him in St. Helens, Oregon. So when the playoffs began, or the finals began, I missed the first 2 games, tuned in for the third one, I think it was. No, the fourth one, because that was supposed to be the elimination game. So a friend of mine who was like, are you watching the fucking Oilers play? I was like, oh my God, no, they're playing? He's like, yes, they're going for the fucking cup right now. And they're about to be eliminated. So the least I can do is watch them go and stuff. And so I sat down and watched the game, and as you know, they refused to go. And then they had to climb out of that fucking hole, and then they brought it to a game 7. And I was like, oh my God, the dynasty years are back. Like, they're gonna do it. It's happening. And then just like the Bad News Bears, they fucking lost. But because I grew up on the Bad News Bears, I was prepared for that. You don't always get to fucking win at the end of the day and whatnot. I'm sad that they didn't take it, but a part of me is happy that a Sun Belt team, walked away with it. It expands hockey just a little bit further, the footprint of skate print, if you will, in the U.S. But yeah, I was deeply disappointed for my Oilers, man. They came close, but that means next year is gonna be fucking fire, right?
It's our fucking year next year.
Amen, man. Thank you so much. That meant the world. Give it up for Alberta, man. Captain, what's your name?
Hey, yes, sir. I'm Bert.
What is it?
Bert.
Bert?
Like the bandit.
Like the what?
The bandit.
Burt Reynolds, like the bandit. There it is. Give it up for Bert. He's next, man. Word, Bert.
Hey, listen, I just wanted you to know that this is my first Comic-Con, and,
Wait a sec, seriously? This is the first time you've ever been to con?
Yes, sir.
So how, you've been reading about it for years, and you've watched the coverage and shit like that?
Yeah,
What
actually.
is it like for a first-timer being here?
Overwhelming. My lightly autistic brain gets overwhelmed really quickly. Thankfully, my wife is great.
Fucking A, man. And may I ask, how old are you?
43, just turned 43 last week.
43, man, and still you made the time to come here.
Yes, sir.
You'll be forever young. You keep living like that. That's well done. Welcome to the family, man.
Thank
I'm
you.
doing this shit 29 years. I can't wait till next year. It's my 30th year. I think they'll give me a set of steak knives or something.
Gold watch.
Yes.
This fulfills a lifelong dream, coming to talk to you. It means a great deal. As somebody who's struggled with chronic depression off and on, your films have been a safe space and a touch point for my close circle of friends, despite having moved 30 times. One of them is here, and the other one unfortunately couldn't make it, but you're out here sharing personal and vulnerable stories for all of us. I wanted you to hear something personal and vulnerable, so thank you.
That means the fucking world. Thank you for that.
My question, actually, which kind of predated what you came out here to talk about, was your films often include threads of friendship and how they have affected you, and these people have maintained these staple roles in your life, whether it's secondary or tertiary. Was that intentional, or was it something that just grew organically over your career and you found it to be something that gave you a sense of belonging and community that, for people like me that have been so displaced, that gives you that sense of continuity? And thanks.
I think it's a beautiful question. Thank you for it. Number one. Number two, I think, as I said before, it's hard for me to define myself. I always have to be defined by external forces and whatnot. And my friendships over the years have helped me become who I am. You never met like Kevin Smith. You met an amalgam of Kevin Smith that was put together I stand up on a stage and curse. That's something I never would have done had I not met Jason Mewes. When Randall in Clerks spits water at a customer and says like fucking obscene or indolent shit, that never would have happened if I hadn't met like Brian Johnson. My love of comic books. I loved him when I was a kid, and then I fell out of it when I went to high school because I was like, oh, I want to get laid now and shit. As if those two things are mutually exclusive. And then my friend Walter Flanagan was the one that brought me back into comic books. He gave me a copy of The Dark Knight Returns. I'd written a Batman report for high school at one point. And I told him, I was like, hey man, I wrote a report on Batman. You want to read it? And he was like, no. And I was like, all right, I'll bring it in anyway. So I brought it in, he read it, and he's like, this isn't about Batman. This is all about the TV Batman, Adam West Batman. He's going, Aunt Harriet's not even a character in the comics. He's going, this is what you think Batman is? He goes, no, that ain't Batman. Let me show you what Batman is. And he reached into his back pocket and he pulled out a copy, rolled up, of The Dark Knight Returns, man. Just had it in his back fucking pocket and shit. And he was like, ignorant knowledge, you know? So he turned me onto that, and like that, I loved Batman as a kid, particularly Adam West Batman. He was my first Batman. But that falling in love with the grown-up, gritty, graphic Batman, with the tragic childhood, you know, his parents get killed in Crime Alley, it was a whole new romance to begin, and that was a gift from my friends. So all the films are all about how fucking important the friendship net is to everybody. Like, you know, family you just get, right? Like, if you're lucky, you just get a family and stuff. You choose your friends. You build your own tribe, you know, and you build a secondary family. And I couldn't have done anything I've done over the last 30 years were it not for the people that I've met and borrowed from or wholesale stole from, in terms of like, you know, I'm not nearly as cool as I may project, and trust me, I know I'm not fucking cool at all. But anything that I have, any credibility, came from like hanging out with Jason Mewes for years. You know, people are always like, you're so authentic. He's the authentic one. And I learned to be more authentic just by being around him and stuff. So my friends have always buoyed me, yes, but they've always fed and nurtured me. I'm not a solo act. That's why I'd never take a credit that says a film by Kevin Smith, because it's never one person. It's like an entire, it takes a village. And even before I got to a movie set, my friends built me. You know, they didn't intend to. They weren't like Frankensteining and shit like that. But in giving so much of themselves, spending so much time, quality time, like hardcore bonding and shit like that, it made me who I am, and it made me want to make the art that I kind of want to make, which is about people that just fundamentally fucking like each other at the end of the day. And they can fucking curse each other out, they can be assholes to each other, they can have ups and downs, but at the end of the day, like, they just like each other a lot. That's how I feel about my friends, and I'm glad it comes through in the work. So I've been trying, so what you're telling me is it's working. Thank you for that. Okay, kids, we've been up here for like an hour. Oh shit, an hour and a half. So you may be the last one, man. What's your name?
Charlie.
Yeah, we'll give it up for Charlie. Charlie might take us home. All right, Charlie, do you have a show-ending question?
Hope so. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe at one time you were greenlit to go forward and make, and you wrote and you were gonna direct Fletch 1 with Jason Lee in the lead role.
I was trying.
And
they would never greenlight the movie because I wanted Jason Lee. They didn't want Jason Lee.
That was my question. With Harvey Weinstein being out of the way, I'm sorry. I had to.
You might want to warn a motherfucker before you spring that name on it. I didn't get a chance to clench my asshole.
With one of the key producers being out of the way, was there ever hope for you pursuing it again? Did you ever consider trying to make it?
No, the guy who represented, I believe his name is David List, I can't remember, but he represented Gregory McDonald, the writer of the Fletch series of books, who I gave him a lot of credit. I always felt like Gregory McDonald was how I learned to write dialogue. His books are not very heavy in descriptive passages. They're very dialogue heavy. So I love those books, and I honestly felt that's where I learned to write dialogue from. So I got to speak to Gregory McDonald on the phone at one point when the library to all the books were up for grabs. Over the course of I'd say 5 years that it was in my life, I couldn't get it made because I was holding out for Jason Lee as the lead and stuff, and the folks at Miramax didn't want Jason Lee to play the lead. And so I know that made it painful for Gregory McDonald, who would have liked to have seen another Fletcher movie happen as quickly as possible, but it was a kind of drawn out process. So by the time it was all over, like I had made a few movies in front of that. Jersey Girl was one of them. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was one of them. Jersey Girl was another one, then Clerks 2. By the time I got to Clerks 2 and I hadn't made a Fletch movie, the people who had the property were frustrated and just wanted to be away from Miramax so they could maybe set up a deal, make it someplace else, which they eventually did, and John Hamm was in what Confess Fletch, and did a really great fucking job. But my version will probably never see the light of day at this point, which is, is fair. I got paid to write it, which was negligible because honestly, I just transcribed Gregory McDonald's book and then just put it into screenplay format. So I mean, technically I wrote a script, but really I just based it on his book because his book was so good. So I don't think it's ever gonna come to pass, that one, man. Try as we did for years. At one point, I was authorized to offer Ben Affleck $15 million to play the lead. And I offered it, and he was like, oh God, I want to. But then he wound up doing another project with Disney instead, opted against it. That was the one moment where I was like, if it ain't gonna be Jason Lee, then maybe it could be Ben. And they were like, okay, but that didn't wind up coming to pass. So yeah, windows open, and for a while you try to keep the window suspended so that maybe you can get out there and do the thing. But that one, the window closed, and it's probably never gonna open at this point again. But I watched that Confess Fletch flick, and it was absolutely wonderful. Probably a better version of the movie than I ever would have done, even though we weren't doing the same story. So I know somebody else will pick up Fletch and do it, but probably not gonna be me. Which is fine. Like some shit you get to appreciate from afar, and that's gonna be one of them for the rest of my life, I guess. Thank you, man. How are you?
I'm good. How
What's
are you?
your name?
Meg.
May?
Meg. M-E-G.
Meg. Everyone give it up for Meg. How are you, Meg?
I'm great. So the vibe of 4:30 movie while I was watching the trailer made me think of how warm and happy it was, and it made me wonder if anything was gonna happen with the Hit Somebody graphic novel.
I was working on that with a friend of mine who is also a storyboard artist for Marvel. And he got very busy working on this little independent picture nobody's ever going to see called Deadpool Wolverine and shit. Jeremy Simpson, he did one of our issues of Quick Stops, the first issue of Quick Stops I did with Dark Horse. So he texted me the other day because we were working on Hit Somebody's full issue 1 drawn, and then he kind of got called into a job where they actually pay you very well. So he couldn't tell me anything while it was going on and shit, and I begged him for information. He's like, dude, I cannot lose this fucking job. But he texted me just the other day to be like, because he saw that I saw the movie and raved about it and stuff. And he goes, you know that bus sequence? The whole fight that takes place in the bus? I was like, yeah. He was like, I storyboarded that. I was like, get the fuck out of here, man. That's pretty tremendous. So he's my guy who is doing Hit Somebody, which we renamed Hockey, a love story. But it'll be a while. Right now, if issue 1 is done, we still got 7 more to do. And I think Jeremy might be like looking at some directing in his near future. So I don't know if I'm gonna be lucky enough to have him going forward on all the issues, but the first one looks absolutely phenomenal. I hope to get to that one day. It's a story set in Canada, takes place over the span of 30 years, and it's about 2 people that love hockey, a boy who gets to play it and a girl who doesn't, and kind of what happens as their lives progress. And it takes place from like 1950 to 1980. So there's such a thing as Netflix Canada. And I found that out. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna reach out to Netflix Canada. I spoke to the lady from Netflix Canada. I sent her the scripts, and I told her how much this project means to me and stuff. She had the funniest note. She goes, "The scripts read like a Valentine to Canada from somebody who is not Canadian." And I was like, "That's absolutely right." She's like, "Yeah, you really romanticize this country." She's like, "It's kind of alarming." So it's not gonna find a home there, but sooner or later, hopefully I'll find a place for it. I'm busy trying to fucking get Moose Jaws made still. Yeah! I think we got a little bit closer this week, man. That's the one that I gotta stay alive until we make Moose Jaws. Only Kevin Smith could make Moose Jaws. It's this flick it's like Jaws, but it's a moose instead of a shark. So we're gonna get there, but first up, the Jay and Bob movie next, and then hopefully one day the hockey thing. Thank you for remembering it, man. That fucking warms my heart. Thank you. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Dominique.
What is it?
Dominique.
Everyone give it up for Dominique.
Real quick, you talked earlier about the 3 things you learned in therapy, that the past is depression and the future is anxiety, and now is being present. So very much for me, being here is being present and enjoying my life. What has been your moment so far during this week that has been your aha, I'm present, I'm happy, and I'm living my life to the fullest right now?
What a great fucking question. There was a moment where I was driving down here today, where my friend Malcolm Ingram, who's kind of like my Jiminy Cricket, he's got a pretty good perspective on my life, one that I don't have myself because I'm too close to it and whatnot. So he's the guy that always, when, what is it? Masters of the Universe started playing the first season on Netflix. There were a bunch of people online who did not like it or me and had a lot to say and shit like that. And since I clicked on those articles, because human nature dictates there's a bunch of nice things, but I was like, wait, what's this? And so when poking into the negative shit, my feed, the algorithm was just a swirl of negative stories and shit. And so, I would sit there and refresh the phone and just be like, oh my God, they all hate it, it's fucking terrible, and blah, blah, blah. And so my friend Malcolm texted me and he was like, hey man, I fucking look at you. You have one of the most talked about fucking projects on the planet. And I was like, what do you mean? He's going, everybody's talking about it. I was like, yeah, everybody hates it. He goes, it's not what I see. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, I see nothing but good reviews and everyone says it's the best thing you've done in a while. And I was like, well, fucking all I'm seeing is the negative shit. He goes, that's because you only click on the negative shit. And so he's always good to give me a healthy dose of perspective. And so I was driving down this morning and he texted me out of the blue at 6 in the morning because he's in Toronto and stuff. Malcolm's wonderful. I've talked about him for years. He's my Canadian filmmaker friend. He's a big dude and shit, got a big burly beard and whatnot, and one of the most opinionated people on the planet. Not a nice Canadian like the Alberta guy. More like the kind of guy that just overstates everything and shit. He was like, fucking Batman v Superman's an abortion of cinema, eh? That kind of shit. And then he holds forth for 20 minutes on it and stuff. One day he called me out of the blue to be like, I'm fucking gay. He just came out of the closet in the most aggressive way possible and shit. And I was like, oh shit, fucking good for you. He's like, I'm a bear. And I was like, what's that? And he goes, I'm a bear, man. A bear is like a big fucking hairy dude that gets laid and shit like that. And we lay in possibly good-looking thin dudes and shit. So he's going, if you ever want to leave your fucking wife, I could totally get you laid as a bear. He's going, we ain't got many director bears in the community. Used to have Peter Jackson, he lost weight, so you'd be the #1 and shit. He's like, if you ever want to give up on women, I can get you laid. I was like, right on. And he told me, I was like, what's it like being a bear? And he goes, it's awesome, man. He's going, I'm a bear, and the dudes I fuck, they're called cubs. Isn't that cute? And I was like, I don't think you understand the bear-cub relationship in nature. So Malcolm, he's always here with me. He always comes every year. He didn't get to come this year and stuff, and so he texted me as I was driving down in the wee hours of the morning, and he said, "Is it true? Are you really doing a Simpsons panel?" I said, "Driving down to San Diego right now. We'll be there in 40 minutes." And this is to answer your question. Just been thinking about how I used to love reading Matt Groening's Life in Hell comic strip long before I even saw The Simpsons. And then I started thinking about how The Simpsons fed me pop culturally right before I went off and entered pop culture myself. It felt really cool. I'm trying to find the joy. And Malcolm wrote, "Dude, it's The Simpsons. They are the Taylor Swift of television." I said, "I'm totally using that line today, crediting you." And then he brought up a memory, man, which was really fucking cool. And like so many things happen at Comic-Con, that wonderful things, that some memories have slipped away. And he brought one up that instantly I remembered. He goes, "Do you remember when Matt Groening introduced his son to you in the lobby of the hotel?" And it did. It happened at the Marriott one day, like me and Malcolm were eating breakfast. And he came over and he was like, "Hi, I'm Matt Groening." And I was like, "I fucking know who you are." And he's like, "Well, this is my young son you just cursed in front of him." And I met his kid and shit. And so, you know, that was the first time I met Matt Groening. And talking about somebody who was very influential in the work that I do and stuff. So Malcolm said, "I was there. It was Homer." I said, "I believe it was indeed Homer." And Malcolm writes, "Homer wanted to meet you. That kid, as the kid of Matt Groening, has access to everything in the world. He could possibly generate a dead celebrity if he wanted to meet him. And he wanted to meet you, the deadest celebrity there is." And aside from like the fucking, you know, rub and shit, it was as I was driving down, I was thinking about, so often I kind of get caught up in like, all right, I have 10 things to do, and I got to make sure I do them all, and hopefully I do them well, and hopefully nobody's unsatisfied and stuff like that. That's the people pleaser nature to me. That's like constantly trying to set the table and think in advance of how to troubleshoot in case there is fucking trouble. But in the morning as I was driving down, there was no fucking traffic whatsoever, and I was in the car by myself. I just started thinking about like, you know, there was a time in your life where you would read about the San Diego Comic-Con from a long way away in New Jersey, you know, in the back of comic books or in Starlog or Fangoria. And it always seemed like this fucking magical place, this mecca, that like one day before I die, I gotta get out to that fucking Comic-Con. And then I went off and made a movie one day. I made Clerks, and then I made a second movie, Mallrats. And because of the second movie, they brought us out here to show it. They were like, "We're gonna bring it to the San Diego Comic-Con," which wasn't really done a lot back then. Like now, of course, you know, Hollywood comes out and shit. But in 1995, that really wasn't the case. So I was just flabbergasted that we were gonna get to go to Comic-Con for the first time. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to walk the floor, like the con of all cons and stuff. And so when I came to Comic-Con, it was this magical oasis. It was like, you know, I didn't really have a collegiate experience. I went and I dropped out and shit like that. But I understand from other people who've gone to college that they found themselves and their tribes when they went to college. They found like-minded individuals surrounded by them. I always like talk to my ex-girlfriend Kim Lockard about the fact that like when we were dating in high school, like I was like the most special guy she knew. She's like, "Oh my God, you're unlike every other guy." Until she went to college, and then they were full of fucking Kevin Smiths and stuff like that. So when I went to Comic-Con, it was full of fucking Kevin Smiths. It was full of like-minded individuals who were there for the same reason I was there, because we love this shit, because this made-up shit feels important and is important, because we love the same old fucking story they tell over and over again of the worst thing in the world happening and everybody's running from it, except for somebody dressed very colorfully heading straight fucking toward it, man. And so coming here and seeing all those people, like, I was like, I'm home. And so every year since then, I've made it, you know, a point to be here, whether I had something to promote or otherwise. So on the drive home, here this morning, I was thinking about that. Not like, these are the 10 things I gotta do to get me home tonight. Instead, I flipped the script and it was like, these are the 10 things that I fucking get to do. And maybe I never get another chance to do it again in this lifetime. So don't take it for granted. When you get up there today, give it your fucking all, man. Like, make sure you express how much it means to you, and make sure before they leave, they know how much this means to you, and make sure they know how much you they mean to you as well. Like, coming out here every year and seeing a bunch of people sitting here fucking does it for me. As I mentioned before, like, I'm a person whose worth is dictated by the audience. And you guys make me feel worthy, man. Like, fucking, I could pick up Molinear if I had to. So, that was my moment. That was I'm grounded right here, right now. I'm not living in the past. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm being right here. And that was the drive down this morning, thinking about y'all. So it went from like, oh man, I got to get to Hall H at 7:30 to like, I can't fucking wait to get to Hall H at 7:30. I'm going to hang out with my friends for a while. We're going to chit chat and bullshit. And that's one of the things I love to do best in this world. Sit around and talk to my friends. As the guy pointed out, I just make fucking movies about it all the time. So I appreciate y'all spending the time with me, hanging out here, chit chatting, asking questions. You make me feel like I matter, kids. Like, I saw a tweet today where somebody was like, they put up like, I think it was Tim Robinson from his show on Netflix, a little like GIF or something like that. And the idea was, he was saying like, I'm the most popular guy here. And the tweet said, this is Kevin Smith after Marvel leaves Hall H. You know, and when I saw that, I was like, touche, that drew a little blood, all right. Like, I adore coming here. I don't know if I get to do it again next year. I don't know if I'll be standing next year. Fucking life is tenuous, man. We're here and we're fucking gone. So for this moment, for the right now of it all, for being fucking mindful and shit, for somebody that went through a thing and came out on the other side and can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you ever need to take a break for yourself in this toughest of all possible worlds, don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. For a minute or two, I was like, I'm gonna handle this by myself. Just as I've handled fucking anxiety my whole life by myself. And then finally I got to a point where I could not handle it by myself. And I reached out to others. Never hesitate to reach out to others if you need some fucking help. But I'll tell you right now, all the help I needed tonight was in the reaction that you gave me to being here, to the fucking trailer. I love you all so much. Before I go, I just want to share one quick fucking story that happened to me in Jersey. This was 2 weeks ago. This is my favorite thing that happened to me as of late. And I was in line at Target. I went to Target and I went to get some dish towels. Long story, doesn't fucking matter. So I'm in line with dish towels and I had to buy underwear. That's kind of the crucial part of the story. I had flown from California to Jersey to do some stuff at the Smog Castle, and I thought I packed underwear, but I didn't. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just go to Target. I buy the same underwear all the time and shit. I go to Target and I get it and shit. And I went and bought, I've lost weight, but I'm very conditioned to buy XX underwear. So I went and grabbed an 8-pack of XX underwear and went and waited in line with my dish towels and underwear. And there was a kid in front of me about like fucking 19, 20, something like that. And he was listening to his fucking pods and shit. There's one person in front of him. So, you know, he did the look around thing at one point and looked at me and then he fucking double takes and he goes, "Get the fuck out of here." He goes, "Are you serious? Are you just in fucking Target like a normal person right now?" And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I am, yes, of course. I am a normal person. So he goes, "No fucking way. This is fucking astounding, dude. I know who you are, and I should because I'm a teenager, but I'm gonna tell you why." He's going, "My mom loves your fucking movies, man. She has forced me to watch every one of your movies all while I was growing up. She is your biggest fucking fan, man." And he's going, "This is crazy. Can we take," I said, "Let's take a picture for your mom." I said, "Better yet, man, give me the phone," and I fucking shot a video for him where he started. He was like, "Mom, look who's here." And I was like, "Where the fuck were you, Alice? You were supposed to meet me here. Why didn't we meet at Target? Like, you fucking flat left me. Fuck you, Alice." You know, and smiled and hung up and shit. And then I handed him back the phone. He goes, "Oh, this is so fucking cool." He's going, "She's gonna need this, man." He's going, "Because my stepdad's a real piece of shit." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, he's always fucking cheating on my mom. He's a fucking hound, man. I just met this fucking kid." He's going, "It's so disappointing, man. She deserves better." He goes, "You know what? She deserves fucking you." And I was like, "That's very sweet." He goes, "No, serious, man." He's going like, "Fucking, I see you're carrying some fucking underwear in there and shit. XXL, that means you must have a big fucking dick, right?" So weird to have a conversation conversation about my dick with a 19-year-old and shit. But I was like, no, it has nothing to do with that. I said, I have a big gut, and so I used to weigh heavy, but much more, and I lost weight. And so he goes, oh, I know how much you used to weigh. I've watched all the fucking movies. He's going, dude, my fucking dad walked out on my mom. They're having a huge fucking fight. He's going, it would be amazing if you would come home with me and fuck my mother. And I've been married, you know, for like 25 years and shit like that. But like, you know, as I told you, I'd just gotten out of the hospital and I'm a people pleaser. So I had to think about it for a long, hard fucking beat. And the whole time the fucking person at the cash register, the cashier, is looking at me going like, well, we're waiting. And I was like, I said honestly, like, I'm happily married and shit. I'm so fucking flattered. Hopefully the video will suffice and stuff like that. And he goes, it will, it'll be okay and stuff. And his order, the lady was done ringing him up and shit. And his order was like $26. And so she was like, $26. And he's looking at her, he goes, uh-huh. And then he looks at me, and I look at him, and I was like, what's up? And he goes, what, you're not gonna fucking pay for me? And I was like, oh, my bad. And I fucking paid for him and shit. So the moral of the story, kids, is if you ever see me at a Target, get in line right fucking in front of me. And I'll wind up paying for your shit. Kids, thank you so much for being here. The 4:30 movie comes out September 13th. Go fucking see it. I love you all. Good night, San Diego!
Paul H., thank you so much for spending your day with us. Let's give one more round of applause for our friend Kevin